we were without power. Say you are like us and you eat a gluten-free, dairy-free type diet. You don't have the luxury of a refrigerator either. So stay tuned if you've ever wondered, what the heck do I feed my family? What should I even stock up on? What are some meal ideas? Now is not the time to stress out about the things that you can't get. Right now it's really about feeding your family, feeding yourself, and doing the best with what's available to you. And hey, I'm Cher and you are watching the Style and Stewardship channel. So if you watched my last video, which was a couple of weeks ago, and it was a couple of weeks ago because we were without power for about 9 days, and we were impacted by the Hurricane Helene that came through the southeast. And it was definitely more than anyone expected, including the first responders in this area, including the electric companies in this area. And it was literally on record as being just as devastating as Hugo was years and years ago. So needless to say, many of us were not equipped. But if you're someone who has a special diet, so say you are like us and you eat a gluten-free, dairy-free type diet, one of the things that is really interesting is figuring out meals to still be like, feed your family, still be healthy in the midst of a power outage where you have zero way to heat up anything and you don't have the luxury of a refrigerator either. So stay tuned if you've ever wondered, what the heck do I feed my family? What should I even stock up on? What are some meal ideas if we were to go out and have a power outage and we were out of power? What would you feed your family? So I wanted to share some ideas, some of the things that we ate during this time. I've already shared a video just showing what I was able to find in my area that we were able to use and eat. And I had to get creative with meals, and as a nutritionist, I still wanted it to be as healthy as we possibly could. And this is how I did that. So right before Helene hit, I did what I usually do, and I prepped some things. Like I make muffins every single week. I've shared several recipes on this channel and on my website. I will also link them below, just if you're curious about those. But this week I just, I'm like, I love fall and pumpkin season is here. So I made some pumpkin bread for myself that was egg free. And then I made some pumpkin muffins for my family. So when the power went out, and we had no idea it was going to be out as long as it was going to be, you have a little bit of residual cooling going on with your fridge and your freezer before they completely thaw out and are, just completely hot, because they start getting hotter than the actual temperature in your room, which is really interesting, but it just gets trapped in there. This was also a great time to clean out my fridge, so I was able to do that in my freezer. I was so thankful that one of the ways that I prepared was I did not go out and buy a bunch of perishables. So I would typically have bought all my groceries that Thursday, or sometimes I'll do it on Friday. And I did not do that because I was like, I'm gonna wait and see how, we're impacted by this. I did have some things on hand, some things that were already prepped. So that's kind of what I leaned on. But when the power went out, we still had the residual cooling of our freezer. So keep that in mind. So even if you are out of power, you can still stay in your home or your apartment, as we were able to. If you keep your refrigerator closed, the cooling that's already in there, it can hold on. I would not trust this with things like meat or eggs or anything like that, which you're not going to need if you have no power, because you have no way to cook them anyways. So I actually utilized our freezer and I placed those muffins in the fridge. The next day I placed them in the freezer, and we were able to use those muffins for things like breakfast and for things like snacks. And I would take them all out that morning, so we all had some sort of breakfast, and we at least knew like we were gonna have something that none of us had to think about. Because one of the things about being in a power outage or being in any sort of catastrophe is that you just don't know how many different decisions you're gonna have to make. And that's the part that's actually the most draining. I am so grateful and so thankful for all the people that work to get power back on. And I'm so thankful to live in a country where we could drive somewhere if we needed to, if need be, and we could get things that we needed. So we did not, thank you God, we did not go without things that we needed. And this is not what everyone else's experience was. So I definitely don't want to say, oh, this was just so hard and life was just so tough. We are still so blessed, and I'm so thankful. So I want to get into some of the things that we used a lot. These are things that are regular staples for us, but now these are things that I will be, without a shadow of a doubt, keeping on hand regularly just to have them stocked in the pantry. So we're still going to use some of these things, but for the most part, we have, after this has happened, you know, we don't live on the coast, so we weren't expected to be this far inland and have an issue of power outage and lines getting flooded and all of those things. So I want to show some of the things that are typical staples for us. If you've ever watched a recipe, not a recipe, if you've ever watched a grocery haul on my channel, I like to shop at Aldi and at Costco a lot for gluten-free and dairy-free items. These are some of the shelf stable items that really came in clutch for us. I personally can't eat this because I have histamine intolerance, but my son and my husband were able to use these. And these are the RX bars. So this is a great thing to have for, say, a breakfast or for a snack because it has protein. It is higher in sugar, but there is a good balance of which the sugars come from a natural source, which are going to be dates, which is dried fruit, which is higher in sugar, but it is paired with 12 grams of protein due to the fact that it has a couple of nuts in here, and it also has egg whites. So this was something that my husband and son were able to utilize for a snack and sometimes for breakfast. This is what they used. One of the other things is chips. So some of the things that we absolutely love are going to be like the siete chips. And if you've ever been here before, you know this is our real food. So this is already opened. But we like to use the siete grain-free tortilla chips. This is just great to have on the side of a sandwich, which we did a ton of. I bought some of the Canyon Bakehouse gluten-free bread, and surprisingly, a lot of the things that we eat were still kind of there. So towards the end, shelves were just completely cleaned out, and even those you couldn't find after a while, but I went ahead and bought 3 bags of the Canyon Bakehouse gluten-free bread. So I like to just serve this on the side with our sandwiches. And for our sandwiches, since, you know, we couldn't, you know, have a lot of we couldn't have any refrigerated things until we started utilizing our cooler when ice was finally available. What we did was I made chicken salad, I made tuna salad, and sometimes we ate that twice in one day. You do what you have to do. We also did things like, so I love these grain-free crackers, these almond flour crackers. If you can tolerate nuts, these are some of my favorites. They taste very similar to wheat thins, if you're familiar with those, but there's no grains in these whatsoever. So it's like cassava flour and almond flour. And these were such a great thing to have on hand. Again, this is already one of our staples that we have, so we already had that. I did go out and buy some more, and that's just really, it was really good to have this with like some carrot sticks or some celery with the chicken salad or the tuna that I made. The other thing that this is now part of my prepper pantry, I guess, that I'm starting since this experience. And I picked this up at Sam's Club, and I picked up their Members Mark natural chunk chicken breast. This is great to have on hand. This is fully cooked, it's in water. And the other thing that I love to do during this time, and I would encourage you to do, is if you're getting anything canned, the pop top is the way to go. Get the pop top. So many things have that anyways, but our tuna didn't have a pop top. I picked up tuna from different places, and I really like to get wild caught fish whenever I can possibly help it, but in these times, get whatever you can. But we were good on snacks and things like that. Lunches, that's where, I'm sorry, dinner, that's where it got a little, we had to get a little more creative, but I did things like, this is something great to have on hand, by the way, and this is just straight up potato flakes. I picked this up at my local Publix. It was $5 and nothing's in it but dehydrated potatoes. And when you're going through like a fast food restaurant or something like that, you're not getting mashed fresh potatoes anyways. You are getting dehydrated potatoes that they are then adding some sort of packet to some water or something like that, and they are putting a gravy on it for you. This was such an economical way to have something that was going to be a side, that was going to be filling, and that was going to, honestly, if you don't like cold potatoes, or if you don't like lukewarm potatoes, which ours were, then this is not for you. But this was such a great thing to have on hand, just to make sure that we had a side, and that it felt, I tried to keep things as normal as possible for my family as much as I could, right? And I served that with, we were able to, when some of the, we live near like a shopping area, and their lights and their electricity was restored well before ours was. And because of that, we were still able to do things like go and get a rotisserie chicken. When this first happened, you couldn't find those anywhere, but I was able to get a rotisserie chicken, and that's what I would serve at night. And then I would, just strain a can of like lima beans or a can of green beans or something like that. I tried to get lower sodium, but those were some of the things that we used to just make a full meal out of. And then I would, we honestly would, I know that you have a couple of hours before meat is no longer good. So what you want to do is you want to eat it quickly, and you want to eat it within a certain amount of time. So after we would have that for dinner, we couldn't eat the rest of it because we had no way to keep it cold. But once the store started opening back up and ice was available, we started utilizing a cooler, and I would use that chicken breast and make chicken salad the next day. And I bought a thing of mayonnaise that we also kept on ice, and that came in clutch so many times. You're getting omega-3s. We got more omega-3s this past, well, it's been, how long has the power been back on? Anyways, we've gotten more omega-3s the last couple of weeks when the power was off than probably any other time, because typically I'll just have, some wild caught salmon from the air fryer, or I'll roast some in the oven for my family like once a week or twice a week. We got plenty of omega-3s this past week, and that is one of the best go-tos to go for, in my opinion, is to get things that are actually going to still benefit your health. Because a lot of times when things like this happen, we lean on comfort, right? We want comfort food, and we want more sugar, and we want more carbohydrates, and we want more of these things that aren't necessarily great for us in a time where our stress level's already high, which is literally just going to exacerbate any of those hormone signalings like a high cortisol, high adrenaline, and high anxiety. So I wanted to keep things as close to what we eat as possible, utilizing the things that were available to us. So I'm gonna show you some of the other things that we would use as well. Okay, so it may seem a little strange to have something like this, being that I couldn't heat anything up, but a lot of so for example, the mashed potatoes, the dehydrated potato flakes that I showed you, instead of mixing them with like tap water, I wanted them to have flavor, and I still wanted them to kind of taste good as much as I possibly could. So I added some chicken broth to it. So this is shelf stable. The only thing about opening any of these things up was I typically used it that day, or some of it just got, there were a couple of times where we had to throw things out, and I really hate throwing food out for any reason. But I liked having something like this so that I knew you could also get a bone broth if you want to add more protein to it. But this is what worked for us. So I did this, and a lot of times we did, like I said, we did tuna. We have gone through so much tuna, so many and different brands as well. This one is wild caught. I like the pole line caught, but here's the thing. When you have things that are available to you, that is what you get. Now is not the time to stress out about the things that you can't get. Right now, it's really about feeding your family, feeding yourself, and doing the best with what's available to you. And I was so thankful to see some Star-Kissed tuna. So I picked this up as well. I also had the little packs of tuna, but those end up being more expensive per ounce than just getting a big sleeve of tuna or several cans of the tuna. One of the other things that I did was I picked up some of the rice, because believe it or not, so this is the ready-made rice. So believe it or not, rice is very easy to heat up. So we still had gas, which was a separate utility, which allowed us to still have hot water. So we were still able to take showers, which was absolutely amazing. Throughout all of this, we did not lose water. And that was such a blessing because I love a long hot shower. Even though we didn't have AC and it was very hot, but I was still able to take a shower. The other thing that I did was I would run the water until it got really hot, and then I would sit these. Is that the ideal thing for me to do normally? No, but during this time, is this what I did? Yes. So I would put a pot of water and just put a bunch of, take a pot, really heat up the water, and then I would do things like this chicken and wild rice. I would take this, I would peel the labels off, and I would sit it and submerge it in that hotter water, that warm water that I still had available to me, and just to warm it up. So a lot of nights we ate warm soup with some of our, our grain-free crackers. And sometimes we would have some rice, some extra rice thrown in there or something like that to bulk up a meal. And I would do the same thing. You submerge this in that hot water if you have access to that. So that was one of the other things that I did. For breakfast and for snacks, some of the things that I did was rice cakes. So I picked up several packs of these. They were on sale. They were like 2 for $3 or 2 for $4, something like that. So I picked these up, and for breakfast some mornings, what I would do is I would measure out a tablespoon per rice cake and a tablespoon of hemp hearts per rice cake. The reason why I did that is because hemp hearts have 5 grams of protein per tablespoon. So we were getting in the 6 grams of protein from the almond butter or the peanut butter that I used. And those were ones that we already had on hand. I like to keep mine in the fridge, but it was one of those things where that's a shelf-stable item because of the fat and the oil. So I went ahead and I put that on 2 rice cakes. You put that on 2 rice cakes, you're going to be getting 16 to 17, I think these have 1 gram of protein, less than 1 gram, but you're getting 16 to 17 grams of protein for 2 rice cakes. So we would start our day sometimes with the rice cakes and with the nut butter and with those hemp hearts mixed in. Sometimes I would sprinkle a little chia seeds on there too, just to make sure that we were getting in more fiber. So that's an idea. Another idea is going to be, I ended up not using this, but you could get some baked corn tostadas, or the fried ones, whichever ones you have available to you, or you could use the chips like I showed you before. And you could take a can of refried beans and just slather that all over this, and then from there you could put some chopped chicken breast that I was just showing you to be a complete meal. Is it going to be hot? No. Is it going to be filling? Yes. Are you going to get protein and fiber? Also yes. So that's kind of the way that I approach food if I am in a situation where I don't have access to heating things up or keeping things cool. Those are the things that I leaned on personally, and those are the things that really helped us to not be inundated with a ton of things that we don't typically eat, but you do what you have to do. So I also found I'll put a picture on the screen or show the video that I did before, and it was this shelf-stable chicken bacon and turkey bacon, and it was delicious, by the way. But just like 3, I think it was maybe 3 strips of that or 2 strips of that were about 10 grams of protein. So I would pair something like a grain-free Simple Mills bar or one of the leftover muffins, and that's what our breakfast would be some mornings. The other thing that I started doing was, just for this time, and I'm actually still doing it now, I got some shelf-stable, so delicious coconut milk. You may do almond milk. They have other kinds. There's hemp milk. There are all different types of milks that you can find that are going to be by like your canned milks and in your canned food aisle that you can use if you're dairy-free. And you don't even have to worry about them going bad as much as you would if it were, cow's dairy or goat dairy or something like that. So what I did was, I would use that for our coffee in the morning, and sometimes I would even mix that in with our potato flakes, and that would kind of give it a creaminess, and I would add that chicken stock, and that's how I made my mashed potatoes. And my family, they ate it. Did they love it? Probably not. But did they eat it? Yes, they did. But if you do that, you can, if you're someone who drinks coffee every morning like I do, I tend towards a mold-free coffee, and there are just a couple of brands that I really love for that. I'll link the ones that I love below, but I'll show a video or a picture here of what I did, since I couldn't put it in a hot coffee pot, right? I couldn't use my coffee maker. So what I did was I would actually add the grinds to a carafe that I use specifically for loose tea. And I was like, well, if I can use this for loose tea, maybe I can use this for coffee. So what I did was the night before, so it could steep, kind of cold brew in a sense, I would add my coffee grounds to that, add my filtered water to that, and then I would wake up the next morning, pour some of that shelf-stable coconut milk in my cup, and I would just pour my coffee on top. And my husband and I actually really ended up liking it like that. So even though our power is back, we're still doing that. And it's just a little hack that I found literally by just sheer desperation of wanting my coffee. And before that, I was using some instant packs from a brand that I really love called Think, and they have like mushroom blend coffees, which I'm really into for the adaptogenic properties. So that's another option as well. So keeping things like you can still have your regular coffee if you have access to water. And even if you don't have the little carafe situation that I had, you could always go ahead and put that in a cup or in a glass the night before, cover it, and then the next morning just strain it. So you could actually still strain that through one of your coffee filters, do it very slowly, but it's just like basically like pour over coffee, only you're actually pouring your coffee and the grinds are in the top. So it's kind of like reverse. You get what I'm saying if you don't. If you've ever done pour over coffee, you know what I'm talking about. So those are some of the things that we did. Those are the meals that we ate, and those are some of the things that now we're thinking differently. Some of the other things that we did were if you are someone who gets bored or has a child at home like I do, and typically he's homeschooled, I was able to do that for one day. And then I was like, you know what, we got to take the rest of these days off, however long this is going to be, because I don't want to compound our stress during this time. So, and we didn't have a lot of light at all anyways. So one of the things that I did was I went to the Dollar Tree because things were starting to open up near me as far as the shopping center, and I picked up, this tip came from my friend, shout out to her, and she was like, if you get some of the solar lights, if you sit them out during the day, you can bring them in at night and have light. Never even occurred to me. I was telling my sister-in-law this the other day because she too was out of power. And she was just like, yeah, you didn't know that? And I'm like, no. So I'm sharing this for anybody who did not know, like I did not know. You can utilize solar lights, those outdoor ones, put those outside, let it just get charged up with light. And then when you bring it inside at night, you have light, which was awesome. Obviously, we didn't have light. We didn't have anything like that. We didn't have air conditioning or heat or any of those things, but we're in the still very summerish where I am, still in the high 80s. So I did that, and for my kid, he was able to use one of those lights, and they had the battery operated ones. I'm not really going into all the other things that you might need for an outage, but I wanted to touch on that and pop in and show you this, because after this all happened, we picked up something so that basically, if you've ever been camping, you know what this is. I've never been camping, but I learned very quickly that being able to heat things up is just clutch. So this is a dual butane and propane camp stove, and this is for outdoor use only. And basically it comes in its own little case. I will link it. Is a little portable eye. So obviously we have not used it yet because our power ended up coming back on, but we will be prepared next time if we need to cook something. And I just wanted to show that really quickly because this is part of our now emergency prepared kit. And we have more lights, but we also picked up these little camping lanterns that take AAA batteries. And I just want to show you that real quick. From the Dollar Tree, we picked up things like word finds, and we picked up Sudoku, which I'd never played it before. Now I'm kind of obsessed, and so is my son. and different things like that, just to keep the morale up. And I like to learn while I'm doing things, or have him learn while he's doing things also. And that was just a really great way to do that. And having the little solar lights, we also had little pop lights, but you want to say stocked up on batteries, and we had little battery packs that we were able to charge while we would be out, riding around, or, just kind of assessing damage in our area, because my husband he was off work for a while, but ended up having to go back to work. So we wanted to assess what the damage was, so that when he's driving in the pitch black, we knew which roads were safer and things like that. So the little power banks for your phones, awesome. And thankfully we still had things like our internet that comes with our mobile plan, even though our Wi-Fi and things like that were knocked out. But I just wanted to share these things because I think that when you're in when you don't know what to expect, you just don't know how to respond to things. And if you're someone who eats the way that we do, it can be a little trickier than the next person. We can't just go out and buy cans of, Franks and beans, or, pick up, copious amounts of, sandwich bread, and because we have food allergies and food intolerances and things like that. And if you do, it's important that you get things that are still going to work for you, even if you're in a time where, you can't access the things that you're used to accessing. It's good to have these things on hand. So I love now to keep extras of things like tuna, things like chicken breast, canned chicken breast, things like chicken broth, refried beans, rice, things that are already pre-made, just so that we have that on hand. Should this happen again or something like it, will be prepared. If you have access to an ice chest, or something like that, then all the better, because if you can get a hold of ice, there are other options that are going to open up for you, like they did for us, which were buying what I typically would buy and share on this channel, where like the turkey breast that you can buy the entire thing and you can just shave it yourself. Because we ate so many sandwiches, that became our go-to, a sandwich and some chips and an apple, or some carrot sticks and things like that. Apples keep really well. Carrot sticks even don't really have to be refrigerated as long as they stay wet. If you have any specific questions about some of the other things that we did that maybe I didn't touch on, be sure to leave those in the comments. If you are someone who came through Hurricane Helene, or if you are someone who is impacted by Milton, we have been praying for everyone, because we know firsthand what it's like to be in the middle of something like that, even if it's not to the degree that people in Western North Carolina experienced, or people that are in Florida experienced. Our prayers, we pray every night for all of those impacted by the storm. We thank you so much to all the people that literally came from other states to get the power back on. And man, I'm so grateful for all the people who really do keep America running, and all the things that we may be taking for granted. You go into a room, you flip on the light comes on. You know what I mean? And it just makes me that much more grateful for specific things that I didn't really think as much about. And I just want to encourage you that whatever time you may be facing, God is with you. He is with us in every single circumstance. He says that he will never leave us nor forsake us. And not only that, you have people that are out here that are literally being the hands and the feet of Jesus, where they are taking aid to those that need it. And I'm so grateful. And it is just another one of those opportunities to, whatever you are facing and whatever's in front of you, that you can call on God and steward those things on purpose and steward them well. So until next time, your life matters. What you do with it matters. So what will you steward well? Peace.